Hello everybody, it is Marty, the off-grid gecko, and I'm just going to do a little bit of talking today. Not a whole lot going on for reasons I'll get into in a moment. So I got off work a little early today because, well, it has to do with a lot of reasons, but I got off work a little early today. And it's snowing outside. Getting on towards the end of April and it's snowing. It's April 20th, and there is snow falling out of the heavens in the middle of the afternoon. It dipped down to like 30 degrees earlier. I think it's finally we're starting on climb out for the temperature, and then it's going to dip back down again tonight. And last time I checked, it's supposed to get pretty cold. So it is Tuesday. Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday. My bees arrived on Friday. While it was raining and cold, cool, mild. The sun came out for a little bit, and the little guys got a chance to go out and forage, especially yesterday. They had a really good day yesterday. They were like buzzing all over the place. I got home from work. They were zooming into the hive with their pollen baskets loaded up. They're out there bringing in nectar and pollen and all kinds of other stuff. So they've found their little flowery goodness and all the resources they could need at the moment. Probably because all the other bees are dead. Having a good old time. And then today, snow. That damn Midwest weather, huh? So I guess if I was a seasoned beekeeper, this would probably not even be an issue, right? It's late season frost, who cares? They're bees, they'll figure it out. But me, I'm like a nervous freaking parent right now. So I was talking to myself all the way home, kind of like I'm talking to myself now. Well, I'm talking to you, but you're not here to interact with me. So leave comments, that way you can interact with me. And I came to the conclusion that I want to do something for the bees to help them out while it's nice and chilly, because they're still, and this is the thing, if it was a full-size hive of 40, 50, 60,000 bees, no problem, no worry, cold day, they're not even going to sweat it. But they're not. There's maybe about 12,000 of them in there at this point, I think. Just gauging by the last time. So I broke the cardinal rule of beekeeping, so-called, and I popped the cover open and did just a real quick inspection Sunday. I checked 2 frames exactly. I skipped over one. Just kind of looked down in there to see how the comb building was going, slid it out the way, slid another one out the way, grabbed a brood frame, checked for eggs, popped it back in there. I didn't even take my smoker over there. I just ran over with the hive tool and opened it up real quick, took a look. Because I'm not going to be able to really check them again until at least Friday or maybe Saturday. Yeah, it's been rough. I've had them for like 4 days, and we're going through all 4 seasons, right? We got rain, we got sunshine, we got snow. Tomorrow is going to be cold, just like a regular winter day. And I've been bobbling back and forth with all these things. So I am feeding them. I've been putting out sugar water for them, but because the temperature is getting so low at night, they're not going to drink it at night. And if the temperature of the water gets below a certain amount, like, they're not going to want to go up and drink it. That's like offering somebody an ice cream cone while they're out deer hunting. It's freaking cold out here, and you're giving me ice cream for real? So I've thought about making some fondue, and I may do that tonight, but the simple fact of the matter is I can't really open the box up right now. So how do I do something to sort of help them out without disturbing them and disrupting them? Because right now, as far as I know from what I've been reading, which is a lot, over the last 10 years, especially in the last couple weeks, they should be clustered up somewhere near the top of the hive, and I'm fairly certain they're near the top of the hive, and you'll see why in a minute. But they're all in that box. They're toward the center, and they're kind of clustered up in a little ball. So at the center of that ball somewhere is the queen, doing queen things and keeping warm. Then around her is the brood that are inside the cells. You know, the little baby worms and the eggs and the capped larva, or the capped pupa, I guess. The bees that are about to emerge, and everybody else. They're in the middle of this ball around the queen. And then around that is a cluster of worker bees, nurse bees. And they're all vibrating, keeping warm. Nurse bees and workers, really. And they're trading places and doing their best to keep this little ball of bees basically at temperature, and to keep the brood at temperature, because if the brood get too cold, then they have developmental issues, which I won't get into. There's a lot to read on that subject. I'm reading Langstroth's book right now, and it's actually fucking amazing. Like, if you have any interest in keeping bees, you can find this book online, free to download in PDF form. I've seen several different editions of it, downloadable as PDFs. I'll try and drop a link in the description below to the site that I got it from, if I can find it again, which actually has several beekeeping books available for download, and it's free reading, right? And this is the guy who invented this style of hive with movable frames. So that goes through a lot of things. It was written in the 1850s, so there's a couple things that are different, but not much, surprisingly, including his disdain for other beekeepers. Where was I going with this? So yeah, they're all clustered up there in a little ball, and the fact of the matter is, if you break the hive, if you open the top, open the bottom, whatever, you're going to let cold air come gushing in. There's snow falling down, there's a little rain coming with it, the wind's blowing, like shit's going to get in there, and that's going to get them all rattled and upset, even if they don't come out stinging because they're too cold to really break their cluster. They're not going to be happy. That's just not a good thing to do. So luckily this morning, before I left, I went ahead and put the feeder back on. I've been taking it off. I took it off last night so that I could bring it in and fill it, and more importantly, get it warmed up in here before I took it out this morning, just to ensure that at least for a little while today they would have sugar water that was at temperature, that they could grab it, take it down into the hive, or they could just drink out of it or whatever, because that cluster is right up near the top, right underneath where the feeder is. So the structure of the hive is like this. So I've got my my footing, you know, the cinder blocks and the 4x4s, and then I've got a baseboard on top of that, and then the hive box, the deep 10 frame Langstroth. On top of the Langstroth hive, I've got an inner cover that's inverted, so the little hole in it is actually on the side where the bees are. I think I may have mentioned that before. I don't know. I have reasons, okay? If you can't figure them out automatically, like, I have reasons. So on top of that is a mason jar that's turned upside down. It's got little holes poked in the lid, and that's got the sugar syrup in it, so they can drink out of it. And they have been. Like, every time I take it off, there's usually 2 or 3 bees now clung to the bottom of it, like, no, don't take it yet, we're not ready. So I have to flick them off, and then on top of that, or around that, is another hive body, another deep. Okay, so it looks like a 2-box hive. And then the outer cover on top of all of it. So whenever I take the sugar water off, for the reasons of it being cold, and I know there's probably a lot of beekeepers that are going to be like, you're messing with it too much, leave it the hell alone. I've had other concerns, like worrying about the water freezing and things like that. Even though I see now those aren't really a concern. I checked the freezing temperature on sugar syrup, and it's something like 22F. It's going to take a considerable amount of cold, and I thought about that on the way home too. Like, there's impurities in that water, there's sugar in it, it shouldn't freeze it. Anyway, and it doesn't. It can get really, really cold. So that's the structure of the hive, right? So it's like 2 boxes. You got your inner cover in between them, and then on top you've got the top cover, and then inside that upper cavity is that jar, and it's covering up the hole in the inner cover, so they can't get up into the upper cavity right now. So whenever I take the feeder off, I actually take the top frame box off too and just put the lid directly on that inner cover. So changing out their feeding stuff doesn't seem to bother them, and I don't care what anybody says. Well, I do kind of care, but I can't see a little hole this big opening up for less than a minute really having that dramatic of an effect on the bees. And they don't seem to mind it. They don't even come out. Like, a couple of them will crawl up and look around and see what's going on, but they go right back down. I'm not upsetting their process too much by doing that. At least that's how I feel on the matter. Again, I'm not an expert. Take that with a grain of salt. So this morning, took the feeder out, 77 degrees in that water bottle. They've drank about 1.5 inches of it out of that mason jar, which is actually pretty good for them. They haven't been drinking a lot of sugar syrup. Probably mostly because of how cold it's been, which is why I got the idea to remove it in the first place. They weren't using it, and I figure it's better to keep them warm than have that cold water dripping on their head if it decides to drip. But I decided today it's too cold to do that. I'm going to leave the feeder in there. So what I did instead was I came inside as soon as I got home. I fed the cats because they're eating like crazy because it's cold, so they're filling up on nutrients. I grabbed like a couple old t-shirts and a couple of the burlap bags that the rice come in, ran out there, popped the top cover off. Okay, so the bees couldn't even see me. They're in there, and there's everything sealed up between me and them. And I just put like some shirts around the bottom, put the burlap bags, kind of stacked them in a little pyramid up over the top of the feeder, and closed it back up, and that was pretty much it. That was the thing for the day. And then I noticed another way that I can observe them, and they can observe me too. When I walked around the front of the hive, I noticed a couple of them were poking their heads out of that little small entrance on the top, the ventilation hole. And they're just coming out basically to see what was going on, I guess. So I got down there real close and looked at them, and they're like peeking out. I tried to get a picture on my phone, but they went back inside before I got a chance. They're like, oh, it's just human again, and then skittered back inside. But the whole process has got me kind of reflective, right? Like, to me, I added some insulation. I did something. I didn't really disturb them at all today, other than this morning when I put the sugar feeder on, and they were nothing but happy about that. They love seeing that mason jar come down over the hole. They're like sitting there waiting for it, and then they back down a little bit. They're like, okay, bring it down. All right, that's good. Now go away. So they seem to get a kick out of it anyways. I'm not in their head. I don't know what they're thinking, but they seem to enjoy it. And they recognize it, right? They know what it is. Well, maybe, I don't know. It seems to me that they have gotten to where they recognize that feeder, and they know that I'm bringing them sugar, and so again, they're very, very mild bees at this point. Part of it probably because the colony is so small, but just incredibly mild and just super, super fun to deal with. They're cool as shit. Yeah, so it got me reflecting a little bit. And this is one of those things where you can read about something and read about it and read about it and read about it, and until you actually do it and you get the experience, like, you've got an idea how everything works, but you don't have the procedures down yet, right? Like the mud bricks, okay? I can sit and tell you how to make mud bricks all day long. I can tell you how to clean the water. I can tell you how to mix the sand together. I can tell you how to build a form and put it together and slap the stuff. Until you actually get out there and do it, you're not going to realize what a chore it is. And some of the delightful parts of it and some of the other parts, and then just trying to manipulate the soil that you have and make it like whatever you're seeing on YouTube. I've experienced that frustration numerous times because I don't have good clean clay. I've got rocky crap that has to be separated, and that means my process is basically totally different from somebody with good access to clay. And that's the same thing with bees. I think experienced beekeepers kind of know a little more. They've had more time to address it, and they have enough experience. They've been through it, so they sort of know what to do. And then all their hives die on them anyway, so it's not exactly encouraging for somebody getting into this, especially right now. It seems like that last winter that we had, which obviously isn't totally over yet, killed off everybody's bees in the central United States, and probably I would imagine like south central Canada too. It was a really, really cold little blast that we got all over the entire region. Some of the wild bees survived it. So how do we emulate what the wild bees are doing a little better to improve the survivability of our hives? These are things that I think about, like above and beyond. I don't follow like a 1, 2, 3 step process. I'm not going to take anybody's word. I try to read what everybody's saying who's having success. I try to give a little more credence to the older guys that have been doing it for a while. Give a little less credence to lippy new beekeepers that have been beekeeping as long as I have, but they feel compelled to give instructional videos on beekeeping. So hopefully my beekeeping videos are not coming off as instructional, and if they are, then don't take them as instructions. This is simply my journey into the beekeeping world and my thoughts on different aspects of it, because I am new and I don't know everything that's going on. I didn't have an answer today. It's like, it's snowing, it's like 30 degrees. Is there anything I can do? Because the default is just leave them alone and let them take care of themselves. But is there anything I can do? Like, should I remove the feeder so it's not dripping on them? Should I do this? Should I do that? I finally decided they're probably keeping the bottom of that feeder warm enough. It's not a huge 1 gallon feeder. It's just a little quart mason jar. They're probably keeping it warm enough that they can at least utilize it. And if it does get cold, there's enough freaking sugar in there that's just going to cake up on the bottom and seal the holes anyways. So it hasn't been super drippy as a matter of course. I don't think that's going to be a big issue. They have ventilation. I'm not going to block their ventilation because keeping the inside of that hive dry is of the utmost importance, especially when it's cold out. And I'm not going to block their entrance because that's their little entrance. I mean, there's an entrance reducer in there right now that they seem happy with. I'm not going to upheave, even taking it out of there to put it on the smaller notch. You open the front door and just let all the cold air in. So what was something I could do where the most minimally invasive thing that I could do where I could still do something for them to kind of help them out? I've thought about wrapping it, wrapping the hive with something, or maybe just wrapping the bottom portion of the hive with plastic or something like that as a windbreak. The wind's really blowing in from the back of the hive, and there are trees behind them as well, so that's good. I mean, the tree line over there is essentially blocking most of the wind that comes through the area. It comes through on the western side of the hive, which the back of their box is facing, and then it kind of wraps around to the south a little bit because those southerly gusts will come up. I don't really have any protection from the north, but aside from, what is that, about 20 yards away, there's another tree break, so they're not that far from a tree line going that way either. So they're in a nice nestled in little cove there with the only real opening coming out this way towards the house to the east. They've got shade in the afternoon, so in the summertime hopefully that'll keep hive temps down. Just I sit and I think about all this stuff, and I'm constantly trying to come up with better ways. So I watch all the YouTube videos. I try to garnish what I can from them. I've been reading a lot and trying to gather whatever I can pick up from the instructions, but they don't necessarily account for every single scenario, right? Like today, what do you do if you get snow flurries just coming out of nowhere? It was 65, 70 degrees yesterday, and today it's freezing and snowing. What do you do as a beekeeper? I don't know. Never been here before, and the fact that all of this is happening the first week of having them, I've probably said it in this video, and I'm probably going to say it about 10,000 more times. I am really glad that I did not order a package of bees when I went to pick up my bees. Because I think if I had a package with my limited experience, they'd all be dead by now. Like, today would be the kicker, and they'd be like, nope, done, screw it, and we give up. You know, it's too cold to drink sugar syrup, you don't have any fondue for us, there's no comb to build on, we can't keep warm, screw it. And just sitting there and freeze to death. I may be exaggerating there, but I try to wrap my head around, you know, and I know all the bad things about getting a nuke versus getting a package. There's pros and cons on either side, right? But I think for the way the weather's been, I'm fortunate that I went the nuke route because they have a better chance, I think, of being able to build up properly despite screwy weather conditions and new beekeeper. Now, if I was a seasoned vet, 2-3 years in, I will probably only buy package bees at that point. But for right now, I got what I got to work with, and that's all I have. So this video's super long, and it's just me talking, and I realize that's kind of boring, but maybe some of you guys are into this stuff, or if you're into beekeeping, maybe this is some stuff that you haven't thought about, you might want to think about. You know, when your bees come in, it's, you know, shit or get off the pot. You don't have time to think about it. It's kind of like another 18th century ideal, apart from Langstroth's book, is sea life on board a ship in the 18th century. You know, if you are promoted to the rank of lieutenant, you're given a command of some sort, usually somewhere in that process, and then you can only expect everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. It was the same thing in the oil field. If I had somebody new working with me who was just breaking out as a lead hand, I'd go and work the night shift, I'd let them have the day shift, and they would have every problem you could dream of having for their first, you know, it's their first time being in charge and like having to run everything by themselves and not being able to just fall back on the lead hand and be like, what do I do? You got to make the decisions, and then you're going to be tested. And maybe that's the same with bees. You get a package of bees, you will be tested. And that's just something to think about. And you're not going to know how to solve every situation. I don't know if what I did today was the best. I don't know if what I did today even helped in the slightest. I'm pretty sure I didn't hurt anything by going out there and throwing some extra blanket material up on top of the hive. But, you know, that remains to be seen. I don't know for sure either way. Hopefully I helped them out a little bit, made their life just a tiny bit easier. Than that, to me, is my job as a beekeeper, is to make things easier on them when I can and leave them the hell alone when I can't, because they're bees and they know what they're doing. So, but you still kind of want to help. You don't want to leave them out there in the cold, stranded. And I'm learning so much at such a accelerated rate that I have to sort of temper my gained knowledge. So I'm going to do some of that. I'm going to do some more reading and make some dinner and do some other things around here. But I just wanted to put something out. So a little update on the bees, a little update on the weather, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'm going to try and do some more, dress up my videos at some point, make them more entertaining. But for now, you get what you get. And sometimes that's just me sitting here talking sort of meta or philosophically a little bit and dabbling into different things. But stick around, come back, visit more. Check out how the bees are doing in a couple weeks. See how good at a job I do on my first year before it's over. And I'll check you guys later. You have a great day.